and welcome to Cotton It On. I am resurrecting the podcast for 2026. It has been a while, but I dipped my toe back in with Vlogmas and thought, let's do it. So my name is Lorna, welcome. I'm sure most of you are going to be new here since it's been a long time since I did a podcast, and this is going to be a roundup of what I've been working on recently, my works in progress, and what I finished in December. It is mostly going to be knitting focused, but I do crochet as well, so it's going to be yarn. It's going to be yarning basically, and occasionally there will be sewing updates, but I can confirm I have not sewn anything recently apart from a garland which you would have seen in Vlogmas if you watched that, and that's all been packed away now anyway. So as you can see, I'm quite bundled up today because it is a bit chilly. I've just been to my local Starbucks to buy a pistachio latte. Has anybody tried it? What do you reckon? I've got mine here. It's alright. It's a pistachio velvet oat latte. So it's got oat milk, but then the foam, it's got cold foam on the top, which is dairy. It's okay. It's not eggnog, is it? You know, eggnog's the best, but yeah, so I've got that for company. So let's talk about what I finished in December. So in December, I finished 5 things. I was quite prolific because basically I had 2 weeks off work. I only have one of those physical items to actually show you, so the rest of them I'm going to need to insert photos. So the first thing that I finished in December was a Christmas tree ornament that was crocheted. So it was called a peppermint mocha ornament, and this was a kit from Michael's when I went to the US in October. So in the kit you got everything that you needed. You got all the yarn, you got some instructions which were bilingual because you get Michael's in Canada as well. You got a tapestry needle, you got a plastic crochet hook, you got all the stuffing, you got everything that you needed. If you watched my Vlogmas, I think this featured in episode 2. And I attempted to make it in a day. I do not recommend making an amigurumi style object in a day because it is quite hard on your hands. So when I made this, I did not use the included crochet hook. I measured it using like a needle gauge thing, and got one of my clover hooks out instead because I find those easier to use. So it was fine. It took a bit of, I'm not the most experienced with crochet, completely self-taught from YouTube, and I've never really made anything amigurumi style before. So when I think the first part of it I had to rip out a couple of times. The yarn was very plasticky, and it was fine, and sewing it together for the most part was okay. There was a bit where I had to use a glue gun. The only part that I didn't enjoy sewing together was attaching the hat part to the mug part because mine did not look like the picture. And I know, like crafting, you can do what you like, can't you? You don't have to make it look like the picture, but I don't know, it just looked a bit odd. And there were several times over Christmas where I saw it on the tree and thought, I might take that off and sew it up again. So there was plenty of materials. The closest I got to running out of was the white, which was the colour that was used the most. I could make it again if I wanted to, but I would need to buy. I could just follow the instructions again, but I would need to buy some new yarn and everything. There was some stuffing left, so that was good. I wouldn't say this was a beginner's crochet project, but I enjoyed doing it and it looked nice on the Christmas tree. So my second finished project in December was my Betty and Judy Lodge sweater, which is a pattern by Poison Girls. And I don't have that to show you either because all of the Christmas clothes I've vacuum packed and put them away till next year. I used Cascade 220, straight up 220, not superwash. I had 4 skeins of green and a skein of white. In the original pattern they used red and then kept green for the holly leaves, but I've already got a red Christmas jumper that I've knitted before, so I wanted a green one. The hardest part of this pattern was the colour work at the top. Once I got the hang of it, was okay. I have done colour work projects before. I feel reasonably comfortable holding a strand of yarn in each hand. I've tried knitting with both colours in my right hand. I'm an English style knitter generally. I've tried knitting holding both colours, or picking one and dropping one, and my tension goes all over the place. So I think I do my best colour work holding a yarn in each hand. So I did find the pattern instructions you had to look into 3 different places. So it's definitely not a beginner's pattern. You had to work the colour work chart, and there was also written instructions on a different page for things you had to do at the same time. The colour work charts was on 2 pages, and I felt that could have been perhaps made slightly smaller and put on 1 page, so you didn't have to keep, because I don't print my patterns, I do them all on Knit Companion, so I had to keep going between the 2 pages, which was a bit fiddly. In the introduction, like the preamble to the pattern, it talks about needing to do a mixture of intarsia and colour work. So I set myself up with loads of bobbins. I've never done intarsia before, but I thought, right, let's have a go. But then when I read a different part of the pattern, it talked about having 2 green bobbins, or balls in my case, and then stranding the white, the background colour, like stranded colour work, and not having different bobbins. Which was annoying because I'd set myself up for full intarsia, but actually it did work better in that way than when I tried to do a proper intarsia. I also experimented with catching floats, which I do not recommend, because it's such high contrast colour work. You can see where you've caught the green floats through the white, which I stopped doing that after the first couple of rows, and it did look a lot better. Getting through the body was just fun. That was just plain stocking stitch knitting. And the sleeves, when I picked up the first sleeve, the puff sleeve, I thought it was constructed really nicely. It was really clever the way that the puff sleeve was made, and the decreases and everything. But my god, doing a puff sleeve and then having to do it again on the other side, it is a slog. So by the end I had absolutely had enough, and it's got twisted rib, which I find awkward. So by the end I really was not enjoying the knitting process, but it was nice to wear. It was warm. I would say if you live somewhere hot, you are not going to want to knit it in Cascade, because that is some warm wool. So it's definitely not a beginner's pattern, and it's a pattern that I've wanted to knit for a really long time. But I'm glad that I'd waited until now, when I'd actually got some experience of colour work and other garment construction. I think if I tried to knit it when I bought the yarn 4 years ago, it wouldn't have gone so well. So my next finished object, I'm going to group 2 together here. I finished 2 pairs of socks, which were for my partner. He absolutely loves them. The first pair is just a plain vanilla sock. The yarn was from Nanette Wake Studio, who I don't think ships to the UK anymore, in the colour work called Patriotic. I'll put a picture in here of those socks. So they're just a plain, they've got a fish lips kiss heel, and then the other pair I actually have here. I think my partner must actually have the Patriotic pair on today because I can't find them. This is the other pair. So this is a String of Lights sock. Now he has worn these, so they've stretched out quite a lot. The String of Lights is a pattern that is, one row is like a texture pattern, and then it's a plain knit row. So it's almost like a broken rib style. This yarn I don't like. There's nothing wrong with the yarn itself and the way it knits and all of that. It was from a company no longer dying called Knitted Wit. I think it's called, the colourway was called Go Timbers, and I bought this in Portland, Oregon. I can't remember the name of the shop actually, but anyway. So my partner chose this because it's the colour of because it was a Portland souvenir and because it's the colours of our cricket team, which is Notts Outlaws or Nottinghamshire, the green and golds. But the reason I don't like the way this pulls. So once I started knitting this, I started it on a plain, and he really likes it, but I know that if I'd knitted these for me, I wouldn't have finished them, because I just don't like the way it's pulled at this gauge on this size needle. It's not for me, but he really likes them. So I followed the pattern. It's got a heel flap and gusset like in the pattern, so 2 pairs of socks. And then the final thing that I finished was a hat, which I started on a train. So the hat it's a Musselburgh hat, and this is the first one that I've made where I've used DK weight yarn, and I learnt a lot from knitting this hat. I've made 3, I think, 2 Musselburgh hats. This was the 3rd, and I've always used fingering or sock weight yarn to make my past Musselburgh hats, and they've been fine. They've stretched out over time, so my recommendation is to size down. Go a size smaller than you think you need, because they will stretch over time. So this one I made in DK, and I was aiming for an adult medium, but when I got to the point when you have to measure your gauge to decide the number of stitches, I was on magic loop doing the increases, and my gauge, once I got to just plain in the round, loosened up. So I ended up actually making the size large, which I didn't mean to, because I increased too many stitches, which meant that I then ran out of yarn. So this is quite a short Musselburgh. There's not really space to have the fold up brim. It's more of a straight beanie, and I had to do some creative management by going down a needle size. I had to rip some rows out, I had to go down a needle size, and I had to start the decreases much earlier than I would have done, because I was going to run out of yarn. The yarn I bought at Rhinebeck in 2024 from, I think it's called Bumblebee Acres, and I can't remember the exact name of the yarn. I'll find out and I'll put it on the screen. I can't remember the name of the yarn, but I know it was Star Wars themed, and it's to do with lightsabers, and it does glow. It doesn't glow in the dark. It doesn't glow in the dark. That's not true. It glows under UV, like black light. It's quite warm because it's DK. It's just a shame that there wasn't enough. If I'd known, I should have bought 2 skeins, but then 2 skeins for a hat seems excessive. So those are all of the things: 2 pairs of socks, a hat, an ornament and a jumper, that I finished in December. And I said at the beginning that they were all knitting things, and they were. There was 1 crochet thing, so there you go. So works in progress. I went through my whip baskets in Vlogmas, and I have 10 things that are in progress. I am not working on all 10 at the moment, and since they all made an appearance in Vlogmas episode 4, I'm not going to parade them all today, because we're talking about what I've been doing in the last few weeks or so. So my first project is this. This is a kids stick season by Rebecca Clow, the Crowbayer. It's got a textured pattern at the top, and then it's got a plain stocking stitch body. So the child that I'm making this for is quite tall for their age. This is a size 6 years, so the children's patterns are in age size. The child I'm making it for is only just 5, but they needed a 6 years because they're tall. I have had to lengthen this a lot. So I think the body was meant to end about here, so I had to do all of that extra length. And the sleeve, this is the length that the sleeve is supposed to be, including the ribbing. And so I'm going to get the recipient of this, I'm going to ask them to try it on when I see them next. The pattern is, I find Rebecca's patterns, I like the look of them, I like the style of them, the aesthetic of them really appeals to me. I've made a toaster tee which fits really well, and then I've also made a kintra, both for me. The yoke was way too long. I just find them so wordy. I know that if you're a self-taught knitter and you've got no one to ask for help, it can be nice to have everything kind of written out for you. I think I'm just used to patterns that are more minimal, and I get lost. I get confused about what to do. It doesn't always make sense to me. But it's got some quite nice style lines, like it's got this rib detail here that then carries on even when you've joined in the round. I'm a bit worried that this sleeve is a bit wide. It looks, to me, it looks out of proportion. It's right, I've picked up the right number of stitches, but the width of the sleeve looks out of proportion. And I've decreased as well, followed the pattern. It looks out of proportion to the actual jumper itself. So we're going to have a fashion show next week. This yarn is from Knit Picks. I've had this, I must have had it like 2.5 years. 3 balls of this. This is the final ball of it. It's a worsted weight. Knit Picks Brava, the colour Snow Day Speckle. I've had this for ages. It is 100% acrylic. But it's quite a tight gauge for a jumper. There's not a lot of drape in this particular pattern. This is the weight of yarn that's called for. So yeah, we'll see how we go with that one. So that's the first thing. I've got 3. The next one, I haven't done loads and loads of this. This is still in a Christmas bag. I'm using this yarn. This is from Botanical Yarn. The colour's called Fairy Lights. And this is a California sweater. So actually this and the children's sweater are both drop shoulder constructions. It's going to be a bit hard to see because I've got it on a fairly short cord, but you will get the gist. So the armholes are to here, and so I'm just knitting in the round. I have not alternated skeins in this project because I thought the suri is hand dyed, the sock yarn is hand dyed, and I thought that they might kind of balance each other out. Let's hold this up and have a look. There is a bit of pooling from the blue, but I think I can live with what there is on there. I think the one on the kiddies jumper is much more noticeable. Yeah, I can live with that. So I think from looking at the pattern, I'm only supposed to have 2 inches of body left on this, but I know this isn't even at my natural waist yet. I am quite tall. For reference, I'm about between, depending on the time of day that my height is measured and what shoes I'm wearing, I'm between 5'8" and 5'9", so about 173, 174 centimetres. So I do find that I have to lengthen a lot of things in both knitting and sewing. So it's an oversized drop shoulder, but I think there is absolutely no way I'm going to be knitting ribbing in 2 inches time. I think I am not so much with the sock yarn, but definitely with the suri, the fluffy one here, I am going to be playing a bit of yarn chicken potentially. According to the pattern, I've got more than enough. I've got 3 skeins of that, but I'm not convinced. So that could be interesting. We might have to go for like a 3/4 sleeve or something. I'd rather have a slightly shorter sleeve than a too short body that I am continuously pulling down. This jumper that I've got on at the minute, which you can't really see because I've got a gilet over the top, but this is slightly too short in the body and it's driving me mad. So that's number 2, which I've done a little bit of. My final project was not, oh, that one actually, the stick season I cast on, that was my Christmas Eve cast on. I was hoping naively to finish it in like Christmas weekend. Anyway, this was my New Year's cast on. Now I want to have a moment for the bag. I know some people say, oh, these podcasters, they get so excited about knitting bags. Like, why? Because this is just too cute. And this bag is from Black Pearl Magic. This was her, I think it was called Chasing Rainbows, which I quite liked for Halloween. I didn't buy, you could buy the bag by itself with some stitch markers, which I think must be in the bag. Or, and I miss this, you could buy it with yarn from the Lemonade Shop, who's another person who no longer ships to the UK, which makes me a bit sad. And normally when Shayla does a limited run of bags, you see loads about it on Instagram, people tagging her and stuff. No, I haven't seen anybody post about this bag. So I just wanted to give it a moment for Shayla's bag. It does feel a bit different. If you've got any other bags, this PVC is different, this vinyl is different. It's much more floppy. She said she had loads of trouble getting it through the sewing machine, which I can appreciate, and she would have done. But even the zip, it's a skeleton. Anyway, we've had a moment for the bag. This was my New Year's Eve / day cast on. And my mantra for this year is to try and use what I have. I'm not saying I'm on a yarn ban, because I know it will happen. Then it's like if you go on a diet and you can't have this, you can't have that, and you can't have the other. It makes things more tempting. So I'm trying to encourage myself to use what I have. And this and the Stick Season were both projects where I was trying to use what I have. So for the longest time I've wanted to make Slip Stravaganza by Stephen West. So I cast it on New Year's Eve, sorry. So section 1 was this honeycomb section, and I'm now about 2/3 of the way through section 2. So this is all using yarn from the Wandering Flock. It's their fingering singles yarn. And you need 2 skeins of the main colour, which is this neon yellow, which I think is called Yollo, Y-O-L-L-O. And then you need 3 contrasting colours, 1 skein of each. So I've got Neon Sherbet, I think this is called. It's like a purple. Neon Kelly. These were both I bought on a trip to New York nearly 4 years ago now. And then my other colour is Neon Pink. So the neon pink, the pink and the yellow I bought in a pre-order from Wandering Flock to make this project. But like I say, the other 2 I bought from a shop in New York, which I think is closed now. But this Stephen West patterns are a lot. And I showed this to my partner yesterday and he said, that's a lot. Yeah, it is. He said there's a lot going on. Yeah, there is. So obviously there's a lot of slip stitching. So all of these here, these are all slip stitches here, and there's more slip stitching down here as well. There is no brioche, but I'm not averse to brioche anyway. I've knit 2 Stephen West shawls previously. I did the twists and turns during the Mystery Knit Along in 2022. And I did the Hyber Knit Along in 2022 as well. I made the Aurora Cabin shawl. And I think even if you don't like the outcome, and to be honest, I don't wear them very often now, but I just learned so much from doing them. I'm not sure how much I'm going to learn from this one, because it is there's not a lot of techniques necessarily like there are in some of his other shawls. This is a lot of slip stitching, which is fine, but I just think it's almost like a piece of art. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm probably not going to be enjoying it when I've got 600 stitches on the needles, let's be honest. And this plastic cable is driving me mad. Everybody goes wild for Chalgu needles, and I will say the shorties, interchangeable shorties, these are one of my favourite purchases of last year, because they've made making sleeves so much easier, especially when I've done colourwork sleeves. I've really enjoyed having these. So with the exception of these, I find that using metal needles, these are 5mm not 5mm, 5-inch tips or 4-inch tips. I find the metal ones just, I don't know, it's just something about them that they make my joints feel funny. So I use these are Knit Pro Trends with a Z. But the cords are awful. I have got some of the Mindful cords, but they're not like the ChowGoo ones, and this one that I've got on here is horrendous. It's driving me mad. But first world problems, hey? The final part of today's podcast is I'm going to, this year, like I say, I'm not doing a no buy, I'm trying to do a low buy, and so far no yarn has entered my house in 2026. I'm keeping a spreadsheet, which I did last year. The aim was to do this last year and I failed spectacularly. I did keep my spreadsheet though. So my aim is to use more yarn than I buy. And so far, for this year, I'm counting as it coming out of my stash, if you like, when I cast the project on, when it physically comes out of my yarn cupboard. So this year so far, I am -5 for the shawl, and then minus another one for the stick season. I used 2 skeins in 2025 and started the 3rd skein in 2026. So I am -6 skeins. This part of the podcast then, I'm going to talk about if I've had anything come in yarn wise. I have ordered some spinning fibre because I'm hoping to learn how to spin this year, but none of that has come yet. The only thing I've got that's come into the stash recently was this, and I thought this did not get its moment in Vlogmas because I finished recording on Christmas Eve, is this. So this was the day 25 skein from my advent calendar, and I just thought it was perfect. It went really well. There was a lot of these kinds of colours, a lot of this kind of burgundy here, a lot of pale pink, so I thought this was a perfect way to end my yarn advent calendar. So that is the only skein of yarn that I've had come in recently, and even then it was still in 2025. I don't actually know what I'm going to make with my yarn advent calendar, but anyway, so that's that. Plans. I want to finish the 3 things that I have shown you. Excuse me. I've also, over there in the room, is my Ruby and Roses Sweet Shop blanket. I haven't worked on that since the end of November. I would like in January, when I finish one of these projects, and it's probably going to be the kids stick season once that's gone, I want to finish. I've got four mini skeins of the cerise, which was month 2, colours to get into the blanket, and make a start on Vesper, which was the reds, because I do have 6 months worth now of minis and I want to try and get through some of those. I also am really desperate to start my Moonglow Rainbow blanket. So many people are finishing theirs because they were doing the monthly order. I did the 3 monthly to try and save on shipping. And I really want to start that, but I know that I need to finish some of these other projects first as well. I've got this jumper, the California jumper. I've also got the tessellated jumper, which I want to finish while it's still cold enough to wear. I want to make another jumper with Suri. I'm thinking about making another Skyline jumper because I wear that a lot. So I've just got too many plans and not enough time. So I thought, why not spend some knitting time making a podcast? Yeah. Anyway, that is all for today's podcast. If you want to see how I get on with these projects, please stick around. You can subscribe. Please like the video so people know that I'm here and doing videos again. And I will chat to you in a few weeks' time. Bye! It got cold. Cold foam makes it go cold too quickly.